Good morning, YouTube. My name is Kyle, and today we're talking about Porsche. They've officially unveiled the all-electric Taycan, and everyone is talking about it, so I guess I will as well. Ever since the Mission E concept was shown off in 2015 at the Frankfurt Motor Show, I've been dying to see what Porsche would bring to the electric table. There's been some offerings from other manufacturers, but none have really been able to compete with Big Daddy Tesla. Part of Tesla's continued success is that no other manufacturers have come up with a direct competitor to the Model S. The BMW i8 was a fancy, sportsy thing that wasn't quite sportsy enough. And the Jaguar I-Pace is nice, but still a bit of an oddball in terms of packaging. And Rimac unfortunately just doesn't have enough brand recognition to really compete in the big leagues. Enter the Porsche Taycan. Taycan? I don't know, I'm going to use whatever comes out of my mouth, and if you don't like it, feel free to roast me in the comments. The Taycan is the first competitor that really checks all the boxes. It's fast, it's sexy, and you won't get much more brand recognition than Porsche. So let's take a look at it. We'll start with performance since that's what the internet likes. There will be two flavors of Taycan at launch, and both will have 616 horsepower of all-wheel drive fun, available whenever your heart desires. But the curiously named Turbo model will have an even more curiously named overboost function that will raise that up to 671 horsepower for short bursts. The Turbo S meanwhile pumps that up to 751 horsepower. All that power means the Taycan can do a 0 to 60 run in just 2.6 seconds. That extra performance unfortunately does come at the cost of range. The Turbo S can still run a healthy 410 kilometers though, while the regular Turbo squeezes out 450 kilometers before it's out of juice. Thankfully, recharging the battery shouldn't take too long. You can get up to 100 kilometers of range in just 5 minutes, or charge from 5% up to 80% in 22 minutes. But you will need a 270 kilowatt charger to do so, and those are few and far between. On the braking front, Porsche says that 90% of braking will be regenerative, meaning that the car will use its own kinetic energy to recharge the battery. But they still put some of the biggest brakes in the industry on this car. 16.5-inch rotors up front with 10 piston calipers, and 16.1-inch rotors in the rear with 4 piston calipers. The reason they've done this is that Porsche is Porsche, and they really don't care what you do 90% of the time. They build it for the absolute max. Porsche builds sports cars, and the Taycan is no exceptions, so the brakes have been sized to meet the highest of performance standards. If you want to know more about how Porsche tests the brakes on their cars, I've linked a Road and Track article in the description. Another result of all that testing came with the battery and the motors in the car. Porsche says they've detuned the car so that it's capable of maintaining track speeds for longer periods without overheating, something that Tesla might want to look into. If I had to guess, that probably means it won't be long before the aftermarket starts cracking open that software and unleashing all the ponies that Porsche has taken out. Even with the reduced power, the Taycan has still managed to do a 7-minute and 42-second lap around the Nürburgring. I'll throw some other times on the screen here for reference. But yeah, that's fast. Performance is great, but this is an electric car and environmental impact is kind of the point. So the Taycan will also use a 2-speed transmission on the rear motor to improve both efficiency and acceleration. Win-win. But the car is not the only green thing. The factory is actually going green as well. The factory will be powered with renewable energy and use biogas to heat the facility. All of the logistics vehicles will also be electric. Inside, the Taycan will be very much the same, but different. The overall layout of the cabin and instrument cluster will be very familiar to Porsche fans, but the car does sport some new features that differentiate it from the rest of the lineup. It will feature all the standard Porsche goodies, but the main attraction here is the screens. This car has more square footage of screens than I've ever seen in a car. There's the infotainment screen, the digital gauge cluster, the HVAC screen in the center console, and the fourth, optional, screen in front of the passenger where they can see things like radio, navigation, and performance information. Another unique feature of the Taycan's interior is their sort of floating naked gauge cluster. Most other cars have like a big hood over the gauges, but the Taycan does without it. I'm not a huge fan of this, but that being said, I also don't hate it. All this electric luxury doesn't come cheap though. The Taycan Turbo starts at $174,000, and the Turbo S starts at $214,000 Canadian. And I'll put the Freedom units on the screen here as well. But of course this is Porsche and options don't come cheap. I used the online configurator to make my own Taycan and managed to pile on $58,000 worth of options, including this gorgeous $3,600 carmine red paint job and the $5,000 carbon fiber wheels you see here. That brings the total price up to an eye-watering $272,000 Canadian. Production of the Taycan started on September 9th in the factory in Zuffen. You know, it's German. I'm just going to say it fast and angry and hope that it's right. Production started on September 9th in the factory in Zuffenhausen, so cars should be arriving in dealers over the next few months. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and if you think I should take less than 11 months to make my next video, hit that like button and tell me down in the comments what you think about the new Taycan.